Hey guys, it's Pastor Joey here. Christians are finding less and less common ground with those they are trying to reach for Jesus. This is because of the perception that society is becoming less and less Christian. While I sympathize with this feeling, I don't think it's true. In this video, I'm going to explain why I think that, what powerful experiences Christians have with non-Christians, and how evangelism can look different in our ever-changing world. What does the video game The Legend of Zelda, the movie The Lord of the Rings, and virtually every other movie and video game have in common with the real world? They all express this biblical idea of living in exile. In The Legend of Zelda, The Breath of the Wild, what we see is that the world is not the way it should be. It is a shadow of its former self. The main character, Link, is tasked with the responsibility of bringing about peace and stability in this chaotic world. In The Lord of the Rings, Middle-earth is in chaos and evil is a growing influence in the world. Frodo and Sam are tasked with the responsibility of destroying the Ring of Power to bring about peace and stability and the way things always should be in Middle-earth. In the world we live in today, that same idea is expressed everywhere. We're in election season in New Zealand right now, and all the major parties are saying the exact same thing. It goes something like this. New Zealand is not what it could be. We have a whole host of problems, and vote for me because I can fix all those problems.
We need to build our way out of the housing crisis that we've got at the moment. We're currently building around 40,000 houses a year.
Even on a personal level, people feel that their lives are not what they should be, and they are only living a shadow of the existence and potential that they could be living. That's why self-help books and podcasts and videos and alternative spiritualities are so popular and selling so well. People know they have not arrived at where they should be. Now, everything I've just described is a biblical theme and experience called exile. This experience is most powerfully known in the Babylonian exile of the southern kingdom of Judah in the 6th century BC. The Babylonian army and empire invaded Jerusalem and took the best and brightest Jewish thinkers and people into exile into Babylon. God's people were living in exile for nearly a century, waiting for God to fulfill his promise to bring them back home to where they knew they should be. Their existence in exile was only a shadow of what God had promised for them. You see, what's crazy is we are so familiar with this idea and experience of exile that we forget that for a lot of human history, people actually didn't think this way. This is actually a relatively new thing within history itself. Ancient religions were not generally about redemption. They are mostly about reflecting the world as it was, as this cycle of being, and their mythology represented that. There was a civilizational order and a civilizational hierarchy that needed to be maintained to sustain order in the world. You had the gods, and then the kings, and then the courts, and then the priests, and then the merchants and business people, and then you had those general farmers and peasants and everyone else below. You typically stayed in that role you were born into, and your family stayed in that role as well for centuries and centuries. People had their place in the world, and things rarely got better. And this is just the way things were. It was the cycle and way of the world. This all changed with the Judeo-Christian tradition. In the Old Testament, God was promising something better for his people and for the world. In the New Testament, God made right on that promise through sending Jesus. Because of the God of the Bible acting in history, and because of centuries of living in that throughout the past 2,000 years, the world generally now sees itself from a biblical perspective, namely from this idea of exile where there is something greater that we have not yet arrived at. So what does this have to do with evangelism and telling people about Jesus? Christians have way more in common with their non-Christian neighbors than they might think. They both feel and experience exile and this desire for something more. They both want to go home and live into what they currently aren't living into right now. However, many people have misplaced promises as solutions to this exile that they might be feeling. Some people think money and possessions will make everything right. Others think that having a partner or a spouse or a significant relationship will solve all their problems. Some think that travel and experiences will make the world a better place and make their life even better. And even some people believe that government ideologies that promise a better future are the solution. The Christian hope is that Jesus is the only person who can make everything right, not only in your life, but also in the world. He's the only person who can bring us out of this exile experience of living a shadow of what life should be like into what life should really be like. Maybe in the next time somebody presents this experience or feeling of living in exile, of living a shadow of what they could and should be living into, you can talk about the hope that you have in Jesus, the hope and redemption for a future that Jesus offers each and every person. This is the common ground that we have with those who aren't Christian.